Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. I think that was my wife that initiated that. I love you. That was really cool. What's up? Hello, everyone. So my name is Tim. As you may already be aware, if you were paying attention to David in that video. On that note, if you have not gotten to know David, right over there, he is an incredible human being. So shake his hand, give him a hug, and tell him you love him. A lot of the things that happen here when it comes to music, when it comes to the style, when it comes to the expression of Anthem, look at that man. This place is not what it is without him. So, getting into this, hello everyone. I just want to mention something real quick. I cannot tell you how many countless hours I wrestled with this text that I'm going to be talking about today. It was harder than probably any other sermon I've had to prepare for. Not because of the stage or the location, but because of what was within it and what were the things that I felt were kind of prodding at me. I wrestled with it, for a long time. And so I guess my invitation, my request to you this morning is to be with me as we journey this together. It's the year 2011. Eddie Mora, a struggling writer, is basically living that of a country song. He loses his job, his money, his girl. Everything in front of him crumbles apart, and there is no hope. And then a mystery pill comes around, and it's offered to him, an antidote to all of his problems. And he takes it, and the country song gets rewound. He gets his dog back, he gets his job back, he gets his woman back, he gets his money back. Everything is reset and put back into a place of normalcy. What comes after the fact is, with the lack of character he possesses, he gets a lot of power. And this story reveals the danger when there's a discrepancy between power and character. And then finally, when chasing shortcuts, the consequences therein. I wish I could tell you that this was a real story, that this happened in real life in 2011, but rather it was a movie called Limitless, born out of Hollywood. And yes, I wish there was an antidote to all of our problems, that we could just say a prayer, amen, move on with our lives and have a wonderful day at the beach. But no, we're here because we're broken people and we need Jesus and each other. So, Joseph, if you have not been here the past 3 weeks, or if you've been here a few times, you didn't catch on to the fact that we have a series that's happening right now. We have been focusing on the life of Joseph. I would encourage you to go back to one of the live streams and just kind of pay attention, get up to speed with what's been going on. Joseph's brothers, as we learned a while ago, and probably in Sabbath school or Sunday school or whatever school you've been in, his brothers find an antidote to all of their problems, which is named Joseph. There's a pit, which brings an opportunity. And Joseph is no more. Problem solved. Happy Father's Day, by the way. I am the youngest of 4. My father loved all of us equally, and I hope that you are doing the same with yours. So this family comes from Hebron, and this is the irony in the name, if you are unaware. Hebron is translated into English as fellowship. Kind of ironic. Fellowship, to unite, to come together. Fellowship is where Abraham settled, and his descendants following him remained in that space. And it's a beautiful story of promise, how God said, I'm going to make you into a great nation, right? Only the story of Joseph comes around, and fellowship turns into fracture. The family is broken. Is the promise still true? Is God going to come through for us? So we know the journey of Joseph from the pit to the palace. We've been talking about it for the past 3 weeks. And so I would like to move on from the story of what takes place with him and focus a little bit on the side story, which is that of his brothers. Do you know what happens to his family in the 2 decades between him being in the pit and then taking him to the palace? Do you know what happens those 20 years? Scripture only reveals one story. That story is a story of his brother, Judah. I'm going to spare you the details, but it's twisted, it's gross, it's wrong, it's immoral, it's just not okay. So make that your Sabbath reading after your afternoon nap and let me know how it goes. That is the only story that we are told about within those 20 years between Joseph being reunited with his family. One commentary suggests that the reason why this one story is what it is because it is highlighting the fact that Joseph's family is falling into moral decay. You see, Joseph wasn't the only one that was sold into slavery that day. His brothers were too. They were sold into a slavery of guilt. They were sold into a slavery of suppressing conscience and sacrificing integrity and fracturing community. Joseph was not the only one sold into slavery that day. Until a famine forces them to face their past. So Genesis 41:57 highlights the fact that this famine is everywhere. Everyone in the known world is impacted by this. So the only place to go, which God providentially placed Joseph into position to be able to take care of the world at this time, the only place to go was Egypt. And this is what Jacob tells his children to do. He says this in chapter 42, verse 1. When Jacob learned that there was grain in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why do you just keep looking at each other? Y'all doing nothing, you lazy people." He continued, "I have heard that there is grain in Egypt." Jacob's a problem solver. "Go down there and buy some for us so that we may live and not die, as if they're not already dead inside." Then 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain from Egypt, but Jacob did not send Benjamin, Joseph's brother, with the others, because he was afraid that harm might come to him. Verse 5 says, "So Israel's sons were among those who went to buy grain, for there was famine in the land of Canaan as well." You might have missed it because you gloss over it pretty quick, but I don't know if you're aware of the distance between Hebron and Egypt. Imagine driving from Redlands to Reading this afternoon and tell me how that goes. That's about the distance. 450 miles on foot, on caravan. It takes about 15 to 20 miles a day. It is a journey. This is not something you just get up and do, run to Stater Bros, get back, you're taken care of. People delivered the milk and the grain and the wheat and the cereal and all that stuff. It's not like that. This is a journey. This is an unfamiliar territory to what we live in today. So they'll find out, though, on this road, this isn't just a road to recovery from a famine. This is a road to restoration for a family. They were not offered a mystery pill. There was no same-day deliverance. They had to get on the road. Are you tired of hiding? Do you want to heal? I can't walk on the road for you, but I can walk with you. We can walk with you. Genesis 42, 6-14. Now Joseph was the governor of the land, the person who sold grain to all its people. So when Joseph's brothers arrived, they bowed down to him with their faces to the ground. As soon as Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them, but he pretended to be a stranger and spoke harshly to them. Gotcha. Where do you come from? He asked. From the land of Canaan, they replied, to buy food. Although Joseph recognized his brothers, they did not recognize him. Then he remembered his dreams about them and said to them, you are spies. You have come to see where our land is unprotected. No, my lord. No, they answered, your servants have come to buy food. We are all the sons of one man. Your servants are honest men. We're honest, I promise. Trust us. We're not spies, and we're very honest people. Just look back at the past 20 years. I think there's probably a lot of integrity there. No, he said to them, you have come to see where our land is unprotected. But they replied, your servants were 12 brothers, the sons of one man who lives in the land of Canaan. The youngest is now with our father, and one is no more. Joseph said to them, it is just as I told you. You are spies. Spies is not something that came out of left field. Egypt was vulnerable to invasion. Egyptians were characteristically distrustful of strangers due to their lush land and strong economy and powerful army. Everybody wanted to be a part of it. Everybody wanted to loot from it. And so they were very, very aware of the foreigners within their land. Have you been falsely accused? Have you ever been falsely accused? I remember as a freshman in college, there was a situation where I went into the dean's office and the dean prompted the question, why did you go through the door after curfew? I was like, I've never done that. What are you talking about? He's like, yeah, somebody saw you go through the door after curfew. What were you doing? I froze. And honestly, it sounds like such a petty, little, insignificant thing, but in that moment, my body was shaking. I was like, it wasn't me. Trust me. Like, I didn't do that. I am the goodiest of two shoes. Like, that was not me. My voice, I was, hesitating every single word. I'm like, what's going on? I didn't do it. You can trust me. I'm an honest person. See, I feel like I can empathize with his brothers a little bit. We're not spies. We would never do that. Trust us. This isn't who we are. You're getting it wrong. Whoever told you that, that's not it. Yet at the same time, the consequences of 2 decades ago is still following them, and I can't give them a pass, honestly. Personally, I can't give them the pass. However, what about me? How often have I seen other people's blatant, obvious sins or perceptions thereof and cast judgment, ignoring the plank that's in my own eye? It's easy to ignore pride. It's easy to ignore bringing somebody down with our words. It's so much easier to say, God, I thank you that I am not one of them. But what does Jesus say to that? Who is the redeemed? I'm honest. I'm good. I didn't walk through the door. Trust me. But let me ask you something. How many other doors do you think I've gone through? It might not have been that one. But what about the other ones? What about the other moments of compromise? The other moments of blatant and obvious destruction to my own soul? The pain that I have caused in other capacities rather than just setting off an alarm and waking people up from their slumber? What about the other doors? What about my plank? It is easy to judge his brothers, but when we are faced with the reality of sin, of evil, and the destruction that it happens with it, there is no sin that has no consequence. Are you tired of hiding? Do you want healing? Healing requires accountability. Accountability needs community. Do you want to heal? Genesis 42, 15 to 17. And this is how you will be tested, Joseph says to them. As surely as Pharaoh lives, you will not leave this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of your number to get your brother. The rest of you will be kept in prison so that your words may be tested to see if you are telling the truth. If you are not, then as surely as Pharaoh lives, you are spies. I didn't go through the door, I promise. You are spies. Prove it. If you're honest, show me. And he put them all in custody for 3 days. British theologian Derek Kidner says this. At first sight, like it is pink. At first sight, the rough handling, which now dominates the scene to the end of chapter 44, has the look of vengeance. A call back to Monte Cristo. Nothing could be more natural, he says, but nothing further from the truth. Behind the harsh pace, there was warm affection. And after the ordeal, overwhelming kindness. Even the threats were tempered with mercy. Even the threats were tempered with mercy. And the shocks that were administered took the form of embarrassments rather than blows. I would suggest in Joseph's time as a ruler, he probably punished other people for lesser things. There were probably other circumstances within his time as a ruler that he needed to deal with matters. When it comes to his brothers, the hand that was being perceived as punishment was a hand that was seeking grace. He wanted victory for them. He wanted restoration for them. He was thinking on their behalf. Sometimes grace looks like a prison cell rather than the chopping block. Sometimes grace looks like a counselor's office rather than served papers. Sometimes grace looks like a really difficult conversation instead of deafening silence. Where there is guilt, there is grace. Are you tired of hiding? Do you want healing? When facing guilt, look for the grace of God, because the grace of God can be found everywhere and in everything. Genesis 42, verse 19. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers stay here in prison while the rest of you go and take grain back for your servants, for your starving, households. But you must bring your youngest brother to me so that your words may be verified and that you may not die. This they proceeded to do. They said to one another, surely we are being punished because of our brother. We saw how distressed he was when he pleaded with us for his life, but we would not listen. That's why this distress has come upon us. If these brothers ever uttered an honest word, it was in this moment. This is the crux of this story in verse 21. Not knowing that their brother could hear them, not knowing their brother was even alive, they owned up to their own guilt, their own shame, their own past. They come to terms and accept it and accept the fate that will ensue. This is an emotional moment for them. This is not one of strategy, trying to look the part and say the part and sound the part. This is their heart crying out and saying, we are guilty. Up to now, I would suggest to you that the brothers pursued dignity with the expense and with the cost of integrity. Dignity, the pursuit of reputation and honor. Integrity, the pursuit of truth and moral courage. You may be familiar with Eileen Foster, and if you know the story, please correct me on the facts after. She was a senior VP at Countrywide, and her responsibility was mortgage fraud. Bank of America in 2008 acquired them, and at that time she discovered that there were many fraudulent loan applications, forged signatures, and systematic concealment. So she did what any person with integrity would do. She reported it to her higher-ups. If you're in that position, there's maybe this naivete that would assume that those that are for the company and for you want to do the good thing and the right thing. A thank you letter might be a good way to respond. But rather than thanks, there was retaliation. And she ultimately was terminated. Eileen Foster sacrificed her dignity in career for integrity of the soul. Are you tired of hiding? Do you want healing? Pursue integrity before dignity. And at times, it may be costly. Genesis 42:25. Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain, to put each man's silver back in his sacks, and to give them provisions for their journey. After this was done for them, they loaded their grain on their donkeys and left. Between chapter 42 and 44, there's a significant chunk of this story. They go home. They freak out that all their money is given back. They're like, oh no, we're in trouble now. They tell their father, Jacob, hey, Simeon's back imprisoned with this ruthless, vengeful ruler. He told us to bring Benjamin back over to Egypt if we want him. 3 weeks to Hebron, 3 weeks back. This is not a short stint. Imagine what's going through Jacob's mind. You're telling me I've lost 2 sons, and you're requesting for me to sacrifice a third? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And so they remain in Hebron, the land of fellowship, until the grain runs out. At which point that finite resource that they have been depending on for a season goes away, and they got to do something. They got to do something next. They need to go back to the road of healing from hiding. So they take Benjamin with them. And in 44, verse 18, this follows a situation where Joseph hosts them for a meal, gives them provisions, and sends them on their way. However, there's a test. And this test is one that is either going to prove them innocent and honest or guilty. Can Joseph trust them? So he sets the scene much like was 20 years previous. He puts a silver goblet into the bag of Benjamin. Those are the only two siblings that are the kids of Rachel, of whom Jacob loved the most. Love your children equally, please. And they're on their way. Joseph, setting the scene, brings them back, accuses them, says, y'all are crazy. I do all these things for you, and how do you repay me? You try to steal from me? Absolutely not. And then Judah's like, oh my, please, no, we will be your servants for eternity. We are so sorry. I don't think we did this, but we're sorry. We will commit to you. Just, you are basically Pharaoh to us. We will be under your authority. And then Joseph is finally like, no, that's fine. You guys go in peace. I'm just going to keep the one that stole from me. I'm going to keep Benjamin. He'll be my slave. You guys go home. Live in peace. Let me suggest 20 years previous, at the scene of the pit, they probably would have run with that. Went home, told their father, hey, tragedy struck. We're sad, but life is life. What happens here, though? 44, verse 18. Then Judah went up to him and said, pardon your servant. Judah is Joseph's brother, one of them. Pardon your servant, my Lord. Let me speak a word to my Lord. Do not be angry with your servant, though you are equal to Pharaoh himself. My Lord asked his servants, do you have a father or brother? And he continues down a few verses and recounts to Joseph his family's difficulties and trials that they have been trying to heal from and overcome. And he says, Joseph, spare Benjamin. Verse 33 in that chapter. Now then, please let your servant remain here as my Lord's slave in place of the boy, and let the boy return with his brothers. How can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? No, do not let me see the misery that would come on my father. Judah is speaking with raw emotions, not knowing who he is talking to. Out of the heart, the mouth speaks. This is not strategy. This is honesty. This is integrity with the sacrifice of dignity. We are guilty. My brother is not, let him go. Let him go. I will remain. I will take his place. See, healing does something very fascinating to us. Healing causes us to stop living for ourselves and in place have room in our hearts, in our minds, in our souls, in our time to live for others, to sacrifice ourselves so that somebody else can feel the freedom that Jesus brings. Are you tired of hiding? Do you want healing? The road is painful. And it's long. And it might take a lifetime. But the pain you experience on the road to healing is so much better than the pain in hiding. There are no shortcuts to healing. It takes time. Healing needs community. With community, inevitably comes accountability. Do you want healing? Be willing to live in community and be accountable to that community. Face your guilt. And when you come face to face with that past, find God in that space. Because God is for you, not against you. And finally, take the pursuit of integrity seriously. And perhaps sometimes at the expense of dignity. There's one last verse I want to read. After Judah was extremely vulnerable and ready to lay down his life for somebody else when he could have gotten away scot-free, Joseph knew then, my brothers have changed. I can trust them. He says this, then Joseph could no longer control himself before all his attendants, and he cried out, have everyone leave my presence. So there was no one with Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers, the big reveal. And he wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard him, and Pharaoh's household also heard about it. And finally, Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Are you tired of hiding? And do you want healing? If you pursue healing, you must be ready to face the guilt and own it. Take responsibility. Be willing to be accountable to your community. And when you're face to face with the difficulty, find the grace of God within the circumstance. And something surprising might happen in the midst of this journey. The late Timothy Keller says it eloquently. To be loved but not known is comforting but superficial. To be known and not loved is our greatest fear, which I suggest is why many of us do not initiate the journey and the road to healing. Our greatest fear is to be known and not loved. You are loved, you will be loved, and that will not change. You are welcome here. You are wanted here. You are loved here. To be known and not loved is our greatest fear. To be fully known and truly loved as well. A lot like being loved by God. It is what we need more than anything. When we are willing to lay down our dignity for the sake of healing, for the sake of Christ, for the sake of community, it is incredible. The insurmountable amount of grace that follows. You are loved. You are wanted. And dare I say, you are needed here.